parents kept me from children who were rough. My parents kept me from children who were rough, who threw words like stones and who wore torn clothes. Their thighs showed through rags. They ran in the street and climbed cliffs and stripped by the country streams. I feared more than tigers their muscles like iron, their jerking hands and their knees tight on my arms. I feared the salt coarse pointings of those boys who copied my lisp behind me on the road. They were lithe. They sprang out behind hedges like dogs to bark at my world. They threw mud while I looked the other way, pretending to smile. I longed to forgive them, but they never smiled. Growing up in a small town, it's really hard to be yourself without feeling like you're lesser than other people or getting judged and bullied for that. And every day I would walk home and kids would laugh at me and they'd point and they'd throw things and I'd be treated like some kind of animal who wasn't really worth much. But the funny thing is that these kids were the lesser ones. They were the ones who wore raggedy clothes and feels like they didn't really care about their appearance. I went through this and it's hard because going through this kind of thing in a small town, everyone knows who you are and the majority rules over who you really are. And so when I realized this and I grew up, I realized that these kids who had bullied me all these years had never really smiled themselves. They were never really true to themselves. And I think that's one reason that people are like that, is because they can't come clean to themselves, so they feel like they need to make other people feel lesser than them, so they're okay with who they are. And all those years, I pretended that none of it affected me. My parents kept me from children who were rough, who threw words like stones, and who wore torn clothes. Their thighs showed through rags. They ran in the street and climbed cliffs and stripped by the country streams. I feared more than tigers their muscles like iron, their jerking hands and their knees tight on my arms. I feared the salt coarse pointing of those boys who copied my lisp behind me on the road. They were lithe. They sprang out behind hedges like dogs to bark at my world. They threw mud while I looked the other way, pretending to smile. I longed to forgive them, but they never smiled.